Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And, excuse me. The first resolution is moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Brown. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated February 13th, 2023 be adopted as amended. For new business, Member Bridgman would like to bring forward a motion for a procedural change. All those in favor? Thank you. That's passed. Are there any conflicts of interest? Yes, Member Quinn. I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Joe? Joe, we can't hear you.
Two things this morning. I have one declaration of pecuniary of interest, and that will be it will be item A-106/22. It's a neighboring property, so I think it's best I sit out of that one. And Ruth Ann has just texted me, and she's having trouble coming to the meeting. We can't see her.
Okay. Can we send her an invitation? There we are. Hi, Ruth Ann. I just started, and do you have any declarations of interest? Okay, good. And we'll adopt the minutes. Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Brown. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment minutes dated January 16th, 2023 be adopted, approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? Yes, Member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I have a couple of comments. The first is that Mr. Bosenworth is listed as a member on these minutes, and I am not. So if we could switch that, that would be terrific. And secondly, every single resolution here, we are all being referred to as councillors. I think it should be member.
Right. Yeah, we'll
so
get
that has to be changed throughout the minutes, and besides that, it's fine.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Brown. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment minutes dated January 16th, 2023 be adopted and approved as amended. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, and I'm going to have the Secretary Treasurer read the procedural.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's required that I make a few. It's required that I make a few statements, then I will explain the procedures of the hearing. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Ruth Ann Brown, Lisa Grogan Green, Joe Quinn, and Sean Stokes. I confirm we have a quorum. I can also confirm that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this February 13th, 2023 agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. It should be noted the motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. Now I'll explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions were sent to committee members on Friday, February 10th, 2023. The planner will present any submissions received after that date. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you are here to speak on an application, please wait to raise your hand in Zoom until the planner presents the relevant application. The committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and/or staff. The committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions of applications for consent and minor variance and the reasons for minor variance decisions, as both are required under the Planning Act, will be pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. The resolutions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and no appeals are received. And lastly, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. And that's everything. Thank you.
Okay, and the first application is B 4822 ML Beiers, and that will be Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and good morning, members of committee. The first application to be heard is consent application B-48/22ML in the name of Beiers. The subject lands are known municipally as 1033 Greenwood Point Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 39 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants are proposing to create one new residential lot with frontage on Greenwood Point Road. Staff would note that the originally circulated consent sketch had a minor error. The correct lot configuration includes the entirety of the snowmobile right-of-way on the retained lot. The correct sketch will be included with the notice of decision should committee approve the application today. And I'm able to screen share the correct configuration today at the request of committee. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 15 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, the District Municipality of Muskoka, and Bell Canada. These comments were each circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. Staff, a significant wetland feature has been identified on the severed lot. The adopted official plan states that development shall not be permitted within 98.4 feet of any wetland. Upon reviewing the subject submitted consent sketch, aerial mapping, and staff site visit, it remains uncertain whether future buildings and structures on the severed lot could be reasonably situated beyond 98.4 feet from the boundary of the wetland feature. As such, staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be adjourned for the completion of a satisfactory scoped environmental impact study prepared by a qualified environmental professional to confirm the extent and location of this natural heritage feature so that staff can adequately determine if a development envelope exists on the severed lot. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist committee with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the owner or owner's agent here?
The owner.
Okay. Bring them in, please.
Hello?
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 Okay, yes, sir, go ahead. You can turn your video on if you like as well.
Okay, sorry. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Go ahead.
It's Robert Matthew Beiers at 1033 Greenwood Point Road, P1P 1R2.
Okay, and what would you like to say, sir?
I'm just here to see if this is going to be approved. I was talking to someone last week and they said something about the significant wetlands and they might get deferred, but I'm just here to see if this is going to pass or not.
Okay. We'll wait for the decision of the committee if they want to adjourn it for an assessment. I believe they will, but is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support? No. No one in opposition? No. Okay, are there any questions from the members? Would you like to see this actually adjourned till we get the study? Yes. And that member Bridgman?
I see some noddings. Yes, I don't see any issue with this once we get a building envelope that protects the wetland. But I think we need to adjourn it until we see that.
Okay. Anyone else like to comment on this? Yes, member Quinn. Can't hear you, Joe.
I support that depending on the environmental study, but I'd like to see that done as well.
Yes, okay. So we're going to adjourn this. It looks like it will probably pass once the environmental study is done, sir. But I think out of caution, we will adjourn this. Okay?
Okay, thank you very
Thank you
much.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
I am okay to leave now.
Yes, you can, sir. Mhm.
All right, you
That's-
guys have a nice day.
Thank you. And the next application is P 5622, and that's Blain, and that is again, Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is consent application B/56/22 ML in the name of Blain. The subject lands are known municipally as 1046 River Street. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 56 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to create one new residential lot with frontage on Victoria Street. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 27 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 submissions have been received to date. The following comments have been received and were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, the District Municipality of Muskoka, and Bell Canada. I'm happy to read any submissions in full at the request of committee. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following conditions. First, that a registrable description of the severed lot and any required rights of ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that the availability of an entrance permit be confirmed by the Township's Public Works Department for the severed lot if required. 3, that a road widening across the portion of the retained lot fronting onto River Street be dedicated to the Township to satisfy the Township's Public Works Department. 4, that the existing shed in covered area 1 on the retained lot be relocated as intended in compliance with the zoning provisions or removed. And 5, that a cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the Township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is there the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Okay, would you bring them in, please? Thank you. Okay.
Are we on? I don't know.
I think so, we are as well.
Okay, we can hear you. Would you like to turn your video on as well?
Don't know how to do that.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Then go ahead.
I wanted to ask, on our sketch, there was a propane tank right on our property line.
Right.
Is that of any concern to
Is that yours or your neighbor's?
neighbors?
I guess it's been there for years. Normally,
No, it was put in a
6
year or
months.
2 ago. They moved in, they had a smaller tank, and so they got the big tank, and then they moved it over onto the property line.
okay, are you concerned about that?
The person that may buy the property is.
Okay, what you can do is you can check with our in that building department. I know there are regulations for setbacks for propane tanks.
Okay.
Not knowing the size, I don't know what it is. I think it's standards about 15 feet, I believe, unless they've changed the.
Yeah, it's one of the long ones.
Okay, so I would check with them and have them and that check the regulations out.
Okay, and what department was that?
That would be the building department.
Building. Okay, that's the
Okay.
only concern I have, or question.
Okay, and just for the record, we'll need your name, address, and postal code.
Edith Blain, 1046 River Street, Post Office Box 282, and postal code in Bala, and postal code is P0C1A0.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this? Anyone in opposition? Are there questions from the members? No questions? Read the resolution. Moved by Member Brown, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 5622 ML Blain, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that the availability of an entrance permit be confirmed by the township's Public Works Department for the separate lot. 3, that a road widening across a portion of the retained lot running onto River Street be dedicated to the township to the satisfaction of the Township Public Works Department. 4, that an existing shed and covered area 1 on the retained lot be relocated as indicated in compliance with the zoning provisions or removed. And 5, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. The next application is B 5722 ML, that's Canadian National Railroad. And that is Caitlin Walker. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is consent application B/57/22 ML and the name of the Canadian National Railway. The subject lands do not have a municipally assigned address. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 70 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants are proposing to sever a portion of the retained lot and add it to the abutting lot, which with frontage on Torrance Road in the ownership of Susan Ray. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 17 days in advance of this meeting, and 5 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sobko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Sandy Boss, Township Building Inspector, Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, and the District Municipality of Muskoka and Bell Canada. These comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. Updated Public Works comments were received after the comments were circulated, which state the following. The Township standard for road allowance width is 20 meters. As this is a rail crossing, the township does not have a road allowance for a portion of Queens Walk Road as it crosses the rail corridor, as is typical for most rail crossings. The application proposes to sever and transfer ownership of a portion of the rail corridor to another owner. As a result, Public Works requests that confirmation that the resultant lot line for the severed lot will not be any closer than 10 meters from the existing center line of Queens Walk Road. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following conditions. First, that a registrable description of the severed lot and any required rights of ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. And 2, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge entitled to the lot it's being added to upon registration of the transfer/deeds, which may require the approval of a deeming bylaw. Based on the comments provided by the Township's Public Works Department, staff would also recommend that an additional condition be added as follows. That satisfactory confirmation be received that the southerly lot line of the severed lot will not be any closer than 10 meters from the existing center line of Queens Walk Road. I have no further comments at this time, but I'm happy to assist committee with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Not that I see.
No? No one in support?
Oh, there's a hand up, sorry.
Oh. Okay. Are they coming in?
They're in now.
They're in there.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Dennis.
Good morning, Chair Edwards and committee. Lanny Dennis, Lanny D. Blain, box 254, Novar, Ontario, P0A 1R0. I'm assisting Marie Poirier with this file. We represent the owner. I think that's a fair and accurate assessment of the proposal presented by the planner, and I appreciate the efforts of bringing the application forward and concur with staff to move forward. There's a new condition has arisen. I don't satisfied with the previous two conditions. I suspect when the survey is done, we can address the third condition that was recommended by staff. So anyways, just very quickly, I think it's a fairly straightforward application. The merits are basically it's a lot addition. There's no new development. The severed lot is enhancing the size of the existing property, which is undersized, and bringing it into compliance. And in fact, the at least for terms of frontage, and certainly twice as big as what it is right now. Seems to me that this parcel of property would function better with the lot that it's being attached to versus being with the CN lands. Certainly, it's an improvement. The owners have is identified in the staff report. The owners have a holding tank, and a new septic system would be proposed for this property, so it would improve the situation immensely. And based on that, I would respectfully submit that committee approve the application. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dennis. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? No one in opposition? Okay, are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 5722 ML Canadian National Railway, provided following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, the legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the separate lot will merge in title to the lot it is being added to upon registration of the transfer/deeds, which may require the approval of a deeming bylaw. And 3, that a satisfactory confirmation be received that the southerly lot line on the severed lot will not be any closer than 10 meters from the existing center line of Queens Walk Road. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thanks. And the next application is B 58 and 6222 ML Blugston, and that is Mrs. Gillen.
Thank you and good morning, Chair Edwards and committee. The next applications to be heard are consent applications B 58 and 62 of 22 in the name of Lugston. The subject lands are known municipally as 1585 Brackenrig Road, Unit 12. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 86 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of these applications is to permit lot additions to abutting lands. The applicants are proposing to sever approximately 0.07 acres to the benefit of one neighbor to the immediate west, which has been labeled benefiting Lot A on the site plan, and approximately 0.11 acres to the benefit of the other neighbor to the southwest, which has been labeled benefiting Lot B. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance of this meeting, and no submissions from neighbors or members of the public have been received to date. Comments were received from Sandy Boss, a township building inspector specializing in private on-site sewage disposal, stating that for the resultant Lot A, the new lot line must be at least 10 feet from the existing private on-site sewage disposal system. Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, and the district municipality of Muskoka also provided comments stating no objection, and comments were also received from the Douglas Holland, the township's fire prevention officer, stating no objection, but advising the properties are outside of the NFPA's response time objective of 14 minutes, and owners should therefore consider adding design elements to their developments to aid in combating and slowing the spread of fires. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested lot addition applications be approved, subject to the following conditions. One, that a registerable description of each severed lot and any required right-of-ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. Two, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lots will merge in title to the lots which they are being added to upon registration of the transfer/deeds, which may require the cancellation of previous consents. And three, that if necessary, consent application B58/22 ML be amended to achieve a minimum setback of 10 feet at the closest point between the existing private on-site sewage disposal system on benefiting Lot A and the resultant easterly interior side lot line. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gillen. And is there anyone here, the applicant or applicant's agent here?
The applicant is in.
Okay, bring them in, please.
I just unmuted my video. John Lugston here.
Okay,
But I have no, excuse me, my audio, but I have no video.
okay.
That may be just as well, since it's still very early out here on the West Coast. Anyway, good morning to everybody, and it's good to see actual faces of people that I'm dealing with remotely. So should I make my comment at this stage or just recognize myself? Also, I have asked.
You can give us your name, address, and postal code, and then you can state what you would like, sir.
Yes, John Lugston. My address is 241 Sun Eagle Drive, Salt Spring Island, British Columbia. And you have the details, of course, on my Muskoka address. I've also asked, oh yeah, postal code Victor 8 Kilo 1 Echo 5 is my address here. I've also asked Wayne Simpson to sit in as my advisor if there are any questions that arise in this hearing that I'm unable to answer, given his superior knowledge of planning processes, etc. Shall I cover my perspective on this application?
No, that's fine. You're allowed 5 minutes. Go right ahead, sir.
Okay, just very briefly then, and I want to thank Lisa for all her work on this application. Yeah, we have had from our two neighbors various intrusions onto our property across the lot line that is in question here. And the purpose of this severance is essentially to move land from my lot onto their lots in order to get the intrusions onto their lots. If that's not too much double speak. The most recent has been they added some landscaping to improve the approach to their lots on the right-of-way road, Heritage Road. That was mostly done on my property. On request, it was not removed. So this solution is a compatible one. They're basically acquiring the property and it resolves the outstanding issues. You know, they're not agreeing to remove it subsequently. So that's basically the motivation here. That's what behind it. There's no new lot being created. It simply, you know, reduces the area on my lot somewhat, but not materially for any applications, etc. You know, given the nature of the lot lines, but it does improve their lots. So I think it's a win-win situation, and I don't believe there are any issues outstanding here other than what's been identified by Lisa. I would just comment that on the closest point of the existing weeping bed, the lot line, doing a quick triangulation, do a quick calculation, the lot line moves back 18 feet approximately in that location, which should provide absolute clearance from any weeping bed or the actual tile in the weeping bed. There may be a little bit of outflow of sand from that raised weeping bed that would be within the 10 feet, but I even doubt that. Certainly there would be nothing material and it could be quickly resolved subsequently. But yes, that's something that we'll have to do a detailed check when the actual survey is done. Aside from that, I'll just leave my comments unless if there are questions, I'd be pleased to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. And I see Mr. Simpson's in. Would he like to make a comment?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did some research with respect to the rights of way on the property, and I just wanted to confirm that the benefiting Lot A does already have a right of way over that short section of the roadway that runs through severed Lot B. So both of these lots already have rights of way to get them back out to Brackenrig.
Okay, thank you very much. And is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Opposition? No? Okay, are there questions for the members? No? Moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 586222 ML Lugston, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, the legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lots will merge in title to the lots that are being added to upon registration of the transfer/deeds, which may require the cancellation of a previous consents. And 3, that if necessary, consent application B 5822 ML be amended to achieve a minimum setback of 10 feet at the closest point between the existing private on-site sewage disposal system and the benefiting Lot A and the consultant easterly interior lot line. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried.
If I may, let me just thank you all and have a good morning. Lisa, particularly thank you for all your work on this, and I wish you well.
Good. Thank you very much. Have a good day. And the next application is B 6122 ML. And that is Rachel Holland. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Edwards, and good morning to members of the committee. The next application to be heard is consent application B 6122 ML in the name of the Incorporated Synod of the Diocese of Algoma. The subject lands are known municipally as 1333 Peninsula Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 97 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application are as follows. Consent application B 6122 ML grants a right-of-way over a driveway owned by the Incorporated Synod of the Diocese of Algoma in favor of property owned by Gary Gilbert. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 18 days in advance of today's hearing, and 6 submissions have been received to date. Comments were received from the District of Muskoka, Nick Snyder, the Township Chief Building Official, Sandy Boss, Township Building Inspector, Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, and Bell Canada. No public comments have been received. These comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full by the request of committee. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that if the driveway is to be graded, that the application be adjourned for receipt of comments from the Township Heritage Committee or a satisfactory heritage impact assessment and receipt of satisfactory confirmation that the proposed parking area, including any driveway, will be beyond 20.1 meters or 66 feet from the high water mark, or that a variance or zoning exemption be approved to permit a reduced setback from the high water mark. Staff have offered an alternative should the applicant not wish to alter grade and place gravel on the proposed right-of-way. If committee is considering approval to solely formalize access to the benefiting lot through a right-of-way registered on title under the existing site conditions, staff recommend the following conditions: that a registrable description deed of the severed lot right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan, and that a consent agreement be entered into with the township and registered on title pursuant to Section 5126 of the Planning Act, wherein the owner agrees not to alter grade and not place material, including gravel or asphalt, on the right-of-way, and that a conditional entrance is obtained from the District Municipality of Muskoka for the existing access onto District Road 7 Peninsula Road, or that proof of an existing entrance permit be provided to the satisfaction of the District Municipality of Muskoka. During discussions with the agent for the applicant, they have suggested that they are willing to move forward with the alternatives suggested above, and they would request a deferral today so that they can have more time to discuss details with the applicant. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mahala. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this?
The agent is
Okay,
Good morning. My name is Sarah Turney. The address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 2400, Toronto, M5H2T6, and I appear as agent for the church, which is the owner of the servient lands and lawyer for the benefiting lands. I have very little to add. I think that was a very accurate description. We are seeking a deferral to the next meeting, really just to give me time to discuss the matter with the church, as well as with our clients further, as we only learned about the heritage application, which I understand is new, a few days ago.
okay. Anything else?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support?
No.
Anyone in opposition? Okay, are there questions from the members? They had asked that this be adjourned, and is everyone in favor of that? Okay, so we will adjourn it, and you can bring it back to the next meeting for whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And the next one is minor variance, and that is A 7022, and that is Graham, and that's Mr. Soya. Good morning.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 70-22 in the name of Graham. The subject property is located at 1003 Ann Street, unit number 4. And please note that a decision on this application was adjourned by Committee of Adjustment on November 7th of last year. Prior to further consideration, committee had requested that a qualified professional confirm that the proposal will not negatively impact type 1 fish habitat, and a fisheries habitat assessment has now been submitted. The assessment concludes that the proposed redevelopment can proceed without impacting sensitive, negatively impacting sensitive fish habitat, provided the recommendations of the assessment are implemented. And I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans and elevation drawing starting on page 119 of today's agenda package. And the purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to demolish an existing boat port and a single-story boathouse with associated docks. And the maximum permitted cumulative single-story boathouse width is 16% of the lot frontage, or 16.2 feet in this case. The cumulative width of the existing boat port and boathouse is 32 feet, and both structures are to be replaced by a single-story boathouse with a width of 26 feet. So although in comparison to the existing structures, overall width is decreasing, the proposed width is greater than permitted, and a variance of 9.8 feet is therefore requested. In this case, due to the legal non-complying nature of the existing boathouse and associated rooftop sun deck, the minimum side yard setback from the easterly side lot line is 30 feet. Since the boathouse is to be set back 13 feet, a variance of 17 feet is requested. The side yard setback from the westerly side lot line projection is 45 feet, as the proposed boathouse is to be 35 feet from the side lot line projection. A variance of 10 feet is requested. And similarly, the minimum side yard setback for the proposed dock is 27 feet, as the proposed dock is to be set back from the westerly side lot line by 23 feet. A variance of 4 feet is requested. Since the original public notice did not accurately explain all required variances, a revised public notice was circulated 10 days in advance of today's meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 7 comments have been received, all of which have been submitted to committee in advance of today's meeting. And I'll provide a summary, but can also read any of the submissions at committee's request. The township's development services, public works and emergency services departments have each indicated they do not have any concerns. And a submission in opposition was received from Stephen Bloomberg, the owner of the abutting shoreline property to the east, advising that his family had not seen the boathouse roof used as a sun deck and questioned if it had been. 2 submissions in support were received from Gid Morrison from 1003 Ann Street, located 2 properties to the east of the subject property. Mr. Morrison explains that he assisted with construction of the boat port in 1983 and that the boathouse was used regularly as a sun deck in the past, but not in recent years, as it is no longer safe to do so. A submission was also received in support from Michelle Spence, who's the owner of the abutting property, the former owner of the abutting property to the east. Ms. Spence advises that the boathouse roof was used as a sun deck in the past. Staff have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration and have recommended approval, subject to a condition of approval which would require the owner to enter into a minor variance agreement to implement the recommendations of the fisheries assessment and to reestablish a vegetated shoreline buffer. I have no further comments at this time, but I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak? Okay, bring them in, please.
Morning, committee. In my mind, fairly straightforward application. Last time we were.
Need your name and address and postal code, please.
Thank you, Chair. Sean Donaldson, 3687 Highway 118 West, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. I'm the applicant's agent on behalf of the Graham family from Muskoka Lumber. And yeah, we're looking for a boathouse to reduce the overall cumulative width from 32 feet to 26 feet. We are also improving the side yard to the neighbor who is in opposition. So we're looking to move the overall structure away from his property line by 4 feet. Overall, a general improvement, reducing the cumulative width. The real goal of this was currently there are 2 structures that are approximately 8 feet apart from each other. One boat port that's 10 feet wide and one boathouse that's 22 feet wide. The overall plan is to make it so that it can just be one consolidated building, enough for a boat slip and some storage of their equipment throughout the winter or whatever their needs may be. Our as of right development plan has been overlaid by what our proposal is. So if planning could bring that up for me, just so I could kind of outline to you members what the difference really is. And if you could just zoom in on the boathouse for me, it would be great. So you can see that the red overlay is what our actual proposal is. And then the dark gray areas is what is currently there. So the dark area that's 22 feet by approximately 35 feet from shore is the current as-built boathouse. And then the smaller portion to the bottom left of the screen is the boat port that is currently 8 feet deep and 10 feet wide. It is our understanding that we do have the right to bring that 10-foot wide structure all the way back to shore, which would be approximately 60 feet long and 10 feet wide, totaling 604 square feet or 608 square feet, I'm sorry, which brings the overall size of floor or inside area of the 2 structures to be over 1,300 square feet. Our proposal is much less than that, and it is in one structure. So we believe that this conforms more to kind of what Muskoka should be and what the bylaws of today currently state. Yes, we are looking for a 6-foot minor variance, or I'm sorry, a 10-foot minor variance. We are giving up 6 feet of cumulative width. And we believe this is the best proposal we could have come up with. And we hope that you see it that way as well. If you have any questions, I'm here. The Graham family is here as well. Any questions, please let us know, and we're happy to answer those as best we can.
Okay, thank you. And I see the Grahams are on. Would you like to say anything?
Not right now. I think Sean covered it all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And is there anyone else here in support? No one in opposition? Okay, thank you. And are there questions for the members? Yes, Member Quinn.
Through the chair to Sam, thank you, and thank you for doing the fish habitat study. And you referred to that there's a few conditions that they would like to see or have done. Is that easy enough to highlight for us what they required, as opposed to reading us a 100-page report?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Edwards. Yes, the fisheries assessment was completed by Mikulski Nielsen and Associates, and it was completed as seeing its winter conditions. They drilled holes through the ice and with an underwater camera assessed what was there. And they did point out that the area directly in front of the existing boathouse was dredged. And that has impacted, that has changed the conditions of that area already. I'm just looking back to see exactly what they asked for, and it was basically the recommendations included to complete the demolition either during the winter months when there's ice there, and it's that it can be removed without really causing sedimentation to occur through the demolition. And if it's not done in the winter months, that a so-called silt curtain be put around the demolition site to contain any siltation or at that point through the demolition. And that only be removed once the inside and outside conditions of that silt curtain have been equalized. And that, other than that, there's been best management practices provided by the consultant as to how to prevent any impact to fish habitat. And that was from Fisheries and Oceans, that he had provided their best management practice to take into consideration. And the conclusion was that if those recommendations are implemented, that fish habitat will not be impacted through this demolition and rebuild. And it was also pointed out that moving the boathouse slips out towards the deeper area a little bit is also, I guess, in terms of fish habitat, seen as a benefit. But that's a summary of the conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Moved by Member Grogan Green, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that application A7022 Graham to construct a new single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck and associated dock is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a westerly side yard setback of 35 feet for a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck. 2, to permit an easterly yard side setback at 13 feet for a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck. 3, to permit a westerly side yard setback of 23 feet for the dock. And 4, to permit a maximum cumulative single-story boathouse width of 26 feet. These variances are granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following conditions. One, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 46, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, requiring that one, the implementation, the recommendations of Fisheries Assessment dated January 25th, 2023, prepared by Mikulski Nelson Associates Limited, and B, the plantings along this with securities to establish a vegetated shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you, committee. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the next application is A 9522, Janet, and that is Ms. Gillen again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-95/22 in the name of Janiak. The subject lands are known municipally as 1542 Judd Haven Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 143 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to demolish an existing dwelling and construct a larger dwelling utilizing much of the old footprint, but at a reduced setback from the lot line abutting the road. The proposed new dwelling would also put them over their max allowable coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark by 0.4%. So relief is being requested from the maximum allowable coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting. 3 neighbors wrote in support of the application, being the neighbor to the immediate east, the neighbor to the immediate west, and the neighbor 3 lots to the west. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating that a reduction in setbacks from the road allowance can present future maintenance issues and increased costs associated with tree maintenance, and that the public works department would prefer the setback from the road allowance be achieved if at all possible. Planning staff did, however, review an alternative proposal presented by the applicant's agent with a proposed further setback from the road. However, this would have reduced the setback from the high water mark and necessitated greater site disturbance than the proposal you see before you today. Planning staff also conducted a site visit and felt that given the existing topography and vegetation, as well as a rock wall feature at the north side of the existing dwelling, the current proposal would be appropriate for this particular property. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objections, and comments were received from Douglas Holland, the township's fire prevention officer, stating no objections, but advising that the property is outside of the NFPA rural response time objective, and that owners should therefore consider adding design elements to developments on their property to combat and slow the spread of fire. And Mr. Holland further advised that pre-planning with the fire department would be encouraged. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gillen. And I see that the owner is in, so would you like to have your say?
Speakers on. She's muted.
Yeah. And that, can you get your audio on? I still can't hear you. Now, can you get your audio on there?
There, can you hear me now?
The agent is there.
Okay, I can hear Mr. Muntz, and that you go ahead first. Mr.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, good morning. Thank you, Chair Edwards, member of the committee and township staff for your time here today. It's Eric Muntz, the Dakota Group, the agent here on behalf of the owner. The address is 30 Armstrong Point Road in Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. And I'll just touch on some of the points and why I believe this should be approved today. First, just a little bit of background. The owners have only owned and enjoyed the property since 2010 and are looking to expand on the cottage for them and their family to enjoy for the foreseeable future. And through my conversations with the owner, I definitely sense her appreciation and love for Muskoka and how much they enjoy their time here, and the expansion will allow for a cottage that better suits their needs. The reliefs requested today are minor in nature and respect the existing environment, landscape, and neighbors. I do have a few images that I sent in to township staff, just if you could bring those up, please. Perfect. Just with respect to the lot coverage, the relief request is quite small at 241 square feet. As staff mentioned in the report, the area of the back parcel is included in the lot area for planning purposes. Here you can see the area in red that is included. What I would like to highlight is just a 66 feet wide area for the road allowance within 200 feet that isn't included. This is obviously a large portion of the area within 200 feet that does not contribute to the lot area. If this area were included, the lot coverage would be well under the 10%. Next slide, please. Here's a photo of the front yard from 2011 when the boathouse was approved. Obviously, sorry, it's a little blurry, but you can go to the next picture, please. As you can see here, the vegetation has been completely maintained and become more robust over the years, and of course will continue to do so. You can also see the area of expansion will be behind a well-vegetated buffer and will have very little visual impact from the lake. The existing cottage setback was 44 feet, and the proposed setback has a minimum setback of 46 feet. So we see an improvement to the existing setback to the cottage from the water's edge. Next, please. Here you can see the area of the addition, that the addition will be located. You can see that there'll be minimal tree removal will be required in this area. Also to note, the lot has a frontage of just below 400 feet. Measured off the survey, it's 399 feet. This is more than sufficient to support the expansion. Next slide, please. And just with respect to the requested relief for the setback to the property line abutting a road, the current setback is essentially being maintained. Here you can see the rough measurement from the existing dwelling to the edge of road, which is roughly 57 feet, which does, this is measured off GeoHub, so it can be a little off, but I'd say probably a minimum of 50 feet if we're being conservative, which leaves plenty of room for public works and should not be an issue for the maintenance of Jet Haven Road. That's the end of the images. You can close it out and I'll just continue. We did work close with staff on finding the best placement. As mentioned by staff, there was a site plan that was reviewed by staff and originally preferred. That was more to the east and had a greater setback to the property line abutting the road. After the site visit was connected, it was determined that the site plan before you is the preferred location. We of course respect township staff and appreciate their opinions and feedback and are willing to make adjustments as necessary. There was also a site plan registered on title in 2021. It would be my understanding that that would need to be amended as a result of the proposed work, and the vegetation would be protected. The owner consulted with direct neighbors and there were no concerns with the proposal from any of the adjacent property owners. That is all. I'm here to assist in answering any questions you may have. And I believe the owner is in attendance as well to help answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And would the owner like to speak now? So we still can't get your sound.
Chair Edwards, can you unmute it from your end? Sometimes you can, whoever's hosting.
Yeah. No.
Trying to do something on the computer.
There should be a microphone on your screen, either at the bottom if it's a laptop. And sometimes if it's an iPad, it's at the top. No. Mr. Muntz?
Yes, Chair Edwards.
Could your client, if she can't get on, phone you and then?
Yeah, I can give her a call right now and yeah, I'll see if I can just put her on speakerphone.
Because we'd like her to have her say.
Yeah. Just give me 1 moment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm just gonna put her on speakerphone and she's gonna
Okay, that would be
speak, okay?
great. Thank you. We can do it that way. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members of the committee. I'm very sorry. I am unable to put my microphone on. It's a new iPod. I think we were represented very well by Eric. And so the only thing that I can ask is just to allow this application to go through. So we can build.
Getting an awful lot of feedback. This isn't working very well.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so she would just like me to pass on that I represented her well and she just respectfully asked for approval so we can construct the cottage for her family. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to ask, is there anyone else here wish to speak in support?
No.
Opposition? No, okay. So are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Quinn.
Yeah, I guess where they're gonna do the building, the new building extension, it looks like that's where the septic is now. And I guess obviously, it's gotta be approved septic before they'll do the building, give them a building permit. But what is the policy, in this case here, to meet new septic setbacks at 100 feet? It might have to go across Judd Haven Road. And do we have a policy about putting pipes under the road, and how might that get covered off a new
That's a
septic?
very good question. I'll ask, but I know that we have been asked just a while ago about running piping across the road, and it was not favorable. Let's put it that way. Mr. Muntz?
Yeah, if I may, there is in the bylaw, a section of the bylaw for septic systems that new septic systems can be expanded or relocated based on the existing setback of the septic system. So it would be expanded, or a new one would be constructed at the existing setback or a minimum of 50 feet, whichever is greater. And of course, staff can confirm that, but of course, we would be coordinating with the township for approval on that, and it would not be our plan to go across the road. That really wouldn't be a consideration for us. So hopefully that helps clear that up.
Okay, Member Quinn, you had
Well,
another
I'm sure that
question?
Sandy will do the septic department, Sandy will do the right job. I'd like to see an improvement if possible. I think so far to date, the work that the owner has done there has been very tasteful. I like the coloring and the quality of the products. It's an improvement to what was there.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Moved by Member Brown, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A9522 Janik to permit the construction of a new dwelling with a covered entry is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a minimum setback of 15 feet from the lot line abutting a street for a dwelling with a covered entry. And 2, to permit a maximum lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark to be 5,647 square feet, or 10.4%. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect from 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you all.
And the next application is A122 Bacetta. And that is Ms. Gillen.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-122 in the name of Basada. The subject lands are known municipally as 1085 Kingset Road, Unit 7. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 179 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to demolish an existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling with sun decks, utilizing much of the old footprint, as well as to recognize lot coverage and an as-built boathouse. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting. No neighboring property owners or members of the public contacted the township in relation to the application. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, and Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objections. Comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the township's fire prevention officer, stating no objections, but advising that the property is outside of the NFPA's rural response time objective, and that owners should therefore consider adding design elements to the developments on their property to aid in combating and slowing the spread of fires, and that pre-planning with the fire department would be encouraged. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved, subject to the following conditions. One, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention and vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer, and that the existing gazebo be removed as intended or brought into compliance with applicable zoning provisions. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak?
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Victoria Lemieux, and I'm a senior planner with Morgan Planning and Development here this morning on behalf of the owners. Our address is 98 Tecumseh Street, Orillia, Ontario, L3V 6K8 for the record. I will be brief in my comments. Thank you very much to staff for all of their assistance on this file up to today. We really appreciate it. The design team, we believe, did a really great job in trying to ensure that no further built form goes any closer to the water in this case, as well, fully keeping within the existing footprint itself, other than some relocation of open air decks. So those deck changes are not covered decks towards the water. It is an open deck. But of course, the owners are hoping to achieve a 1-story with a walkout with the redesign. But again, did our absolute best to ensure that no further harm to the shoreline area would result from this application. So our office also submitted a planning justification report in support of the application and concur, of course, with staff's recommendation, and appreciate committee's time this morning and here for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone else in opposition? Okay, thank you. Are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Grogan Green.
Am I unmuted? Okay.
Yes, you are.
My only comment actually is maybe none of my beeswax, but it's related to the lighting. I saw on a detail, and we don't always see lighting details, but there was a photograph showing the sort of handrail on the deck. And I wondered what wattage that is, because I know, you know, with these modern all glass places at night, when people's lights are on, you can really see them from the lake more. And then the exterior lighting as well can become a bit of a nuisance to other people. And so I was just wondering, you know, is that low wattage? And I guess with the new light bylaw, the dark sky bylaw, maybe that's not an issue because we're supposed to be turning our lights out at 11. But I did watch the proceedings and they talked about security lighting. I just feel that maybe that lighting is overkill because, you know, most of us just have a few lights on a building, and to light up a whole handrail maybe is a bit much. How would our dark sky lighting current bylaw, you know, influence this lighting? Like, is this allowed?
Through you, Chair, I can just jump in, and of course, staff can speak specifically in regards to the actual bylaw itself. But my understanding, of course, I didn't do the actual, of course, design of the building itself. But speaking on behalf of the design team, of course, this is still relatively conceptual in nature. I anticipate that through the minor variance agreement that we're going to continue to work with staff on, as well as through the building permit process, any and all light fixtures on the proposed structures, or even, you know, reviewing of what's on the boathouse itself to make sure that everything is still dark sky compliant, I anticipate will occur, but I'll leave it to staff for any, if I misspoke it anyway.
Okay, thank you. And is there any other questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Gillen, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say, I mean, our dark sky lighting bylaw is in effect and the owners would be expected to comply with that. I don't know the wattage of the light myself, but if it's something that we think needs to be investigated, we can speak with our bylaw department to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else that you'd like to say? Any comments? Okay. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Brisbane. Be it resolved that application A100 Peseta to permit construction of a one-story dwelling and a walkout basement and to recognize an as-built single-story boathouse is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a front yard setback of 44 feet at the closest point from the high water mark on the dwelling. 2, to permit a minimum interior side yard setback of 13 feet from the northerly interior lot line for the dwelling. And 3, to permit a maximum lot coverage of 200 feet from the high water mark to be 3,529 square feet or 10.5%. And 4, to permit a maximum cubic single-story boathouse width of 29.5 feet. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following conditions. 1, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title, along with securities for retention of vegetation and plantings to retain and revegetate the shoreline buffer. And 2, that the existing gazebo be removed as intended or brought into compliance with applicable zoning provisions. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, everyone.
I think at this time we'll take a 10-minute comfort break and then we'll be right back. Thank you. Okay, if we're ready to resume, if everyone can come back on, I'd appreciate that. We're waiting for Member Grogan Green and Member Stokes. There we are. Okay, so I'll call the meeting back to order. And the next one is A 108-22 Martin and Hudson. And that is Lisa Gillen, sorry.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-108/22 in the name of Martin and Hodgson. The subject lands are known municipally as 1087 Sandwood Road, Unit 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 202 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to recognize an as-built sleeping cabin. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 12 days in advance of this meeting. One neighboring property owner contacted the township in relation to the application. Ron Richardson, who owns property 3 doors to the north, stated that he objects to the proposal. He is concerned about allowing enhancements to existing cottages, as he states another neighbor tried to enhance theirs, but was denied because of insufficient square footage or area of the lot. Mr. Richardson believes the subject property is going to be used as a rental property. He has concerns about the septic system and when it was last inspected, and asks whether the applicants can wait to have their proposal passed until a site reinspection program with enforcement officer is in place in the township. He states that 3 Mile Lake is an endangered lake and feels all measures should be used not to further its condition. He is saying if the lot frontage is the criteria for cottage expansion as opposed to lot area, that all neighbors should be informed. It should be noted, however, that the township's bylaw considers both area and frontage to determine whether or not a lot is considered a building lot. The proposal before you is a lot with sufficient area for what is proposed but deficient frontage. So it meets one of the 2 criteria, and the deficient frontage is the reason for the minor variance application. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objections, but that a building permit application is required to be submitted with a permit issued and inspected to completion to bring the property into compliance. Comments were received from Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. And comments were received from Douglas Holland, the township's fire prevention officer, stating no objection, but advising the property is outside of the NFPA's rural response time objective, and that owners should consider adding design elements to aid in combating and slowing the spread of fires. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be adjourned for decision at a later date, as we didn't realize there was a shed on the property as well, which contributes to its coverage, until conducting a site visit. The applicants have indicated they would like to keep the shed on the property, and staff have therefore asked them to update the site plan with the shed and its dimensions. They have since submitted an updated site plan, but under requirements of the Planning Act, a new notice will have to be circulated to neighbors with the updated site plan before a decision can be made, which incorporates it into the coverage amount. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gillen. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here?
The applicant.
Okay, would you bring them in, please? Mr. Martin, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, would you like to turn your video on?
I'm trying.
Okay.
It's on a phone, so I'm not sure how to
Oh,
do that.
okay. Okay, go ahead then. I need your name, address, and postal code, please.
It's a Larry Martin of 403 line 14 North, L3V 8J3.
Okay. And what would you like to say, sir?
So we'd like to add on to the existing bunkie. We'd like to add on to a washroom in there and repair the bunkie. Our cottage is a 2-bedroom cottage, and our family's outgrown it, and I have grandchildren now, and we're unable to bring our family up because of the size of it. And we're trying to fix the bunkie up and put an extra washroom in there so that more of our family can come up and enjoy the Muskoka Lakes.
Okay. Very good. Now, is the agent here? I see somebody else. And would you like to speak as well? Oh, Mr. Martin, also, it was said that you would like to have there's an extra shed there that had to be removed, and you want to keep it, and you would like this adjourned?
We would like to keep it. It's an 8x8 shed. It was there when we bought the place 6 years ago, and it's just extra storage for tools and things like that. And
Okay.
it's going to be moved if you grant us the application for the extension of our bunkie, then it'll have to be moved farther away anyway.
Okay, so this then, if I'm hearing the planner right, it should be adjourned and recirculated with that on the drawings. But I'll let your agent speak as well. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Rick Remke from R&F Construction. I'm the president and the agent for Larry Martin and Chris Hodgson.
Can we have your address and postal code, please?
Yes, it's 73 Patterson Road, Oro Medonte. And so Larry and Chris called us to assess the bunkie and put a price together to build it bigger and put a 3-piece bathroom in the bunkie, due to the fact that he hasn't been able to bring his whole family up for a weekend. When we assessed it, we noticed that the bunkie was not on the original plans and realized there was no permit in place for the existing bunkie. So we applied for a variance in order to allow the bunkie to stay and put a small addition on the backside to allow for the 3-piece bathroom. And once that is completed, we've already done drawings for the building department, hoping that the variance will go through and we would be able to add to the existing bunkie.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have to ask, is there anyone wishing to speak in support of this? Any opposition? Okay. And are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Stokes.
Question / comment, I guess. As Ms. Gillen mentioned, there is a letter from a neighbor in opposition, and Appendix Table 1 states that no public comments have been received. That should probably be amended. And then with respect to with respect to the general concern of staff regarding plantings and the time of year and the inability to determine the need for that, if this is going to be deferred, and again, I'll defer to people who have more experience than I, will it be deferred to a time frame that will allow for that inspection and recommendation? And then the other question that I have is with respect to the individual who did make public comment. They do mention, as Ms. Gillen said, a precedent that had been set on that, and I don't know how that plays into this application or if it does at all. I just note it.
Okay, I see Mr. Sharp has his hand up, so just 1 second, I'll mute and he can come in.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and good morning, members of committee. These are all good questions, Member Stokes. I think just to start off, certainly if committee is going to adjourn the application, Part of the adjournment can include considerations related to plantings and the ability to undertake those plantings. So when the matter returns, we can have some clarity in that regard. Just with respect to the notion of precedent, I'm not sure that I completely understood what the question was. So maybe if you wanted to reiterate it or put it in a different way, I can try to respond. And then I think the third thing was there was just reference to no public comments having been received. If you look at table 1 in the report on page 191, at the very top, it says at the top, at the time of writing. So at the time of writing, we had received no comments. We need to publish committee's agenda by Thursday at noon, the week prior to the meeting. So sometimes after we've published our reports, some comments trickle in up to the day of the meeting. So I just wanted to clarify in that regard. Thank you.
Sure, and then with respect to the precedent, I'm just referring to the letter from the neighbor, Mr. Richardson, which was received, I guess, on the 8th of Feb, saying that a neighbor tried to enlarge his cottage but was denied based on the square footage of his lot if you add the square footage of the enhanced cottage, etc. So I guess my question is, did that set a precedent, or is there a precedent? Is there any consideration of what this individual is saying, or reason to consider what this individual is saying?
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and thank you for clarifying that. In this particular instance, although there are official plan policies that do speak to considerations related to precedent, I would say that it wouldn't be uncommon for a situation as we have in front of us, where an owner is either wishing to recognize an existing as-built structure on an undersized lot or to construct a new building or structure on an undersized lot. I think in this particular instance, the proposed as-built sleeping cabin is quite modest in size, and it's well set back from the lake, I believe over 80 feet. So I don't think that we have a concern. I don't think that the approval of this application would necessitate concerns related to precedent across the entire township. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Thank you.
It does. Thank you.
Okay, how is that? Member Stokes, are you satisfied with that answer?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Just to follow up on that, I'm actually thinking that what Mr. Stokes, Member Stokes was referring to may have been an overlot coverage on 3 Mile Lake that was denied with an extension to a cottage. So I am assuming that even if they add the bathroom on here, they're still going to be under their lot coverage, so they don't have to come to us for a minor variance. Is that, I don't know whether we can anticipate that or not, but maybe Mr. Sharp, you could help me out on that. I'm assuming that if we recognize this bunkie, the addition to it is still going to be under the lot size, so they could just simply get their building permit.
Yes. Is that a question to me?
You, Chair Edwards, and thank you for your question, Member Bridgman. The addition, this is actually, I believe, the first we've heard of a proposed addition off of the sleeping cabin. So my suggestion would be, again, if we're going to defer the application, that perhaps the addition be shown on the site plan, because as you know, if committee approves the application, it's going to be the wording of a resolution is such that it's approved, or the development that is approved is as shown on the submitted site plan. So I think it would be a good idea at this point, if there's development proposed that's not otherwise indicated on the site plan, for that to be indicated, and then staff can decide how to return the matter to committee of adjustment for further consideration.
I think on that note, staff are recommending it be adjourned, and I concur with it. Then we can get the actual sizes, the size of the shed, and see if it can be saved or actually removed. So we'll adjourn this, and it can go back in the future. Thank you. And the next application is A 10522, and that's Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 105/22 in the name of Basello. The subject lands are known administratively as 1096 Mortimer's Point Road, Unit 2. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 223 and 234 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to demolish an existing dock and a single-story boathouse / boat port, and to construct a new dock and two-story boathouse on a lot with less than the required 300 feet of frontage. The subject property has 278 feet of frontage. The applicants also propose to construct a two-story boathouse 40.5 feet from the easterly side lot line where 45 feet is required. The requested variance is 4.5 feet. They are also proposing to construct a dock with a cumulative width of 75.1 feet where 69.5 feet is permitted. The requested variance is 5.6 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 19 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, both stating that they have no objection to the application. Comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer, detailing timing and emergency services to access the property in the event of a fire, which can be read in full at the request of committee. These comments were circulated to committee prior to today's meeting. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be denied, as staff do not consider the proposal minor in nature due to the official plan requiring strict adherence to policies limiting density, and due to the potential that approval of such an application could set a precedent for development of two-story boathouses, which are in high demand in the township. Staff have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist committee with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here? And I see somebody in. And that's Ms. Clapton.
Yes, good morning, members of the council. My name is Sophie Clapperton, and I'm the acting representative for the owners of 1096 Mortimer's Point. My address here is 91 Topajo Road, Seguin, Ontario, POC 1HO. With this application, we're seeking the variance related to the size of the boathouse allowed on the subject lands, as already mentioned. The property has 3.75 acres and roughly 279 feet of straight line frontage. And as mentioned per the bylaws, they are not currently allowed a two-story boathouse, but they are allowed to have a single-story boathouse. They do have one that's existing that they're looking to rebuild. And the proposed variance is then to allow for a two-story boathouse, given that they're only 20 feet shy of that 300-foot mark. We've shown this 20-foot extension on the submitted site plan to illustrate really how insignificant the additional frontage is in the context of the hundreds of feet here. That combined with the fact that the property's been quite underdeveloped from a building and landscaping perspective, we believe that allowing such a variance would not have a severe impact on the shoreline or view from the canoe, and in terms of setting a precedent. The owners have no intention of developing the property further and have taken great care to maintain the significant tree coverage effectively. We've submitted a number of drone photos and aerial images that show this. You really can't see the cottage from the water. It's an existing one-story and basement cottage where they are allowed as well to go above, and so it could be much more prominent from the water when it's not. Since they already have an existing single-story boathouse, the addition of a second story or an increased roof height won't dramatically impact the property or the shoreline with respect to things like clear cutting and overdevelopment view from the water. They're also in a bay where many other cottages have two-story boathouses, so they would not be disrupting that, local context and shoreline aesthetic. As mentioned, that there's the concern for precedent in allowing two-story boathouses that are in demand. I understand that many people want the two-story boathouses to allow for extra sleeping space and entertaining space. The reason for this submission is primarily with respect to sun protection. The owners and several members of their immediate family have medical and physical conditions which warrant the need for significant sun protection and climate control. There's an inclinator to take them down to the dock as of right now, given the mobility issues. And they really aren't able to go back and forth, even with the inclinator, frequently from the cottage to the boathouse for things like use of a bathroom, air conditioning, breaks from the sun, things of that nature. So the goal of this is to try and provide an area at the dock where they can enjoy the waterfront in Muskoka, the property to its fullest, by providing a bathroom and some conditioned and protected sun space for them, given the accessibility challenges. With respect to what we're asking in terms of a second story, we understand that there is also the potential to propose an increase in width of the boathouse to allow for a covered area down at the dock level versus going up. The owners of the property would certainly be open to that. However, the reason that we proposed going up with the second story versus wider is that, in essence, going up would provide better protection to the shoreline and the existing habitat of the shoreline and ecological features. We'd be reusing the existing dock structure and simply extending it and going up. Our proposal has the dock extending to that next width of the 300-foot mark. However, extending the dock is really not the priority here. We're mainly looking to provide somewhere for the clients to be able to enjoy the waterfront. And in essence, we figured that going up might be less disruptive from the water, as well as in terms of environmental impact versus increasing the width of the boathouse. However, we're open to hearing council's thoughts on this and revising as needed.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this? Anyone in opposition? No? Questions from the members? Yes, Member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just want to respond to some of the things that you said, Ms. Clapperton. I don't consider 278 feet a minor variance. I know that the township has at 290, 295, perhaps given a two-story boathouse, but this is way out of the range that I would ever be comfortable with because of the precedent that's being set. I'm not sure why you can put a washroom on the first floor of a boathouse and then cover your dock somewhat with some sort of coverage. I'm assuming you won't be over your coverage, your 10% coverage. So I think a lot of your concerns can be accommodated without a two-story boathouse. So I am in agreement with our planning staff here, and I would not support this application.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
Am I able to respond to that quickly?
Well, I just 1 second there. Any other comments on this? We read the planning report and that on this. If there's no other comments, yes, you may actually give a rebuttal.
I don't want to rebut. I'm not arguing with your point. I completely agree. We can provide a bathroom on that main level, and that's absolutely something that we would be open to. The issue here is that with the existing boathouse size, the existing boathouse area is already being used for their boat storage. So there's really no additional space as of right now to provide that sitting protected area without doing, again, a variance on width of the boathouse to provide even more protected space.
Okay. I'm going to read the resolution the way it was written by the staff, which is moved by Member Quinn, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application 105A Basilio to permit a new dock and two-story boathouse is hereby denied. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is denied.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Okay. mark that motion defeated, then I corrected and initialed it. And the next application is 106A 10622. That's 1459372 Ontario Inc. And that is Ms. Gillen.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-10622 in the name of 1459373 Ontario Inc. The subject lands are known municipally as 1018 Woodruff Road, Unit 11. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 255 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to demolish an existing dwelling and rebuild a larger dwelling with attached sun decks at reduced side yard setbacks. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting. 2 neighboring property owners contacted the township in relation to the application, being Martha Goldman, the neighbor to the immediate north, and Tom Anderson, neighbor to the immediate south. Martha Goldman stated she is in support of the application. Tom Anderson was initially concerned about the reduced side yard setbacks and the proposed height of the portion of the dwelling proposed between his property line and the shore, potentially impacting views from where his current bunkie sits. Mr. Anderson and the owner met on site over the weekend, however, and Mr. Anderson submitted further comments stating that he is no longer concerned about the reduced side yard setbacks and that he understands the height will not be a concern due to the proposed design of the development. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, stating no objections, but that spatial separation requirements will be applied to building faces closely adjacent to property lines at a building permit application review. Comments were received from Tim Sopkow, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. And comments were also received from Douglas Holland, the township's fire prevention officer, stating no objections and advising that the subject property is within the NFPA rural response time objective. But he did also advise that pre-planning with the fire department is encouraged. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gillen. And I see that someone is in, so that is the agent, I believe. So have your name, address, and postal code, please.
Good morning, council. My name is Jay Brubaker, and I am the
hang on just 1 second. Sorry, what's that?
I just want to Thank you. I just want to confirm that Member Quinn has declared a conflict on this and he has left the meeting at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay,
sorry, go ahead.
Good morning, council. My name is Jay Brubaker. I am the agent for the applicant, and my address is 365 Highway 60, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H 1B9. And I've been working with the applicant through the design process for a new cottage for this property. And the challenges that we've come up against on this specific piece of property, if you've looked at the site plan regarding the setbacks, the property has a very unusual shape. We have endeavored to move the footprint back from the existing setback further from the lake, and there's a bit of a pinch point in the side setbacks, and so that's why we're asking for relief, and we just appreciate your granting that relief to us.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Okay, you bring them in then, please. Pardon? Okay, they don't want to raise their hand. Is there anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, there's no one there. And are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that application A 10622, that's 1459373 Ontario Inc., to construct a new dwelling with sun decks is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. One, to permit an interior side yard setback of 5 feet of the dwelling and sun decks. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, and the next one is A 0123, Dredgen and Bender. That's Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0123 in the name of Tergret and Bender. The subject lands are known municipally as 1033 Gulf Avenue Road. Excuse me, sorry. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 271 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct an accessory sun deck in a detached screened room. Relief is requested from section 5.2.2 of bylaw 2014-14 as amended, being that no accessory use is permitted prior to the establishment of a main use. In this case, a main permitted commercial use has not been established, and therefore an accessory use is not permitted. The variance requested is to permit an accessory use, the sun deck in the detached screened room, prior to the establishment of a main use. Relief is also requested from section 5.2.3 of bylaw 2014-14 as amended, being existing lot of record requirements. In the C1C zone, the minimum lot frontage and area requirements are 500 feet of frontage and 2 acres respectively. The subject property has 96 feet of lot frontage and 0.6 acres of lot area. This variance will permit a new sun deck and detached screen room on an undersized lot. This will not deem the lot a building lot. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Stopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, and Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer. These comments were circulated prior to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. I have no further comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as I see the agent is in. Go ahead, sir.
Hello again. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee and township staff. Eric Muntz of the Deconing Group, agent here on behalf of the owner, and 30 Armstrong Point Road, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. I'll be brief here because I think it is a straightforward application. We're just looking to permit a sun deck and detached screen room. And the proposal will be an extension to the existing sun deck. I believe the application be minor in nature and is well in conformance with all setbacks and coverage requirements of the bylaw. I'm here to assist in any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to ask, is there anyone else wishing in support? No. Anyone in opposition? Questions from the members? Yes, member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. So this is technically still a commercial property, and that's what these variances are for. I am wondering, from all the discussions we've had before about commercial properties, et cetera, when our new official plan comes through, is there some way we can designate this to be changed to a residential property? So that it won't be redeveloped as a commercial property?
I believe they'd have to ask for a downzoning, would they not? Please. Yeah, hang on just one second.
Thank you through you, Chair Edwards, and thank you for your question, Member Bridgman. Under the current official plan, the current adopted and approved official plan that we're currently operating under, the property would be considered employment lands, and to quote unquote downzone or rezone those lands to a less intense, for example, a residential use, you would need to go through quite a intensive process, what we refer to as a comprehensive review, to demonstrate that the lands aren't needed for employment reasons. I understand that the township's adopted yet not approved official plan does relax those requirements somewhat, but I don't think the township would take it upon itself to downzone the lands. And if an application were submitted in the future, it would be reviewed against the applicable policy at the time. So hopefully that helps clarify or answer your question. Happy to provide more input if needed.
Follow up, Chair Edwards?
Yes, just had to find my mic because I have to shut it down every time.
I know,
Just
I see. It's
go
the
ahead.
fun of Zoom. So I understand that, and I'm not opposed to this, but is it really just a minor variance then, if we're allowing a commercial property not to have any commercial usage? And it's just for my information. I more than anything else. Mr. Sharp?
Through you, Chair Edwards. Yeah, it's a bit of an unusual application or variance. They don't come up very often, but occasionally we do see variances from the requirement. So because there's no commercial use established on the property, the zoning bylaw provisions don't allow the use to be expanded or unrelated, in this example, residential structures to be added. I think in this case, staff are not concerned with the structures that are proposed. As we had noted in our report, I think one could even argue that perhaps if the property were to revert back to a commercial use, that that the proposed sun deck and detached screen room may actually be a benefit from that perspective for a tourist resort use. I think where staff would have more concern if there was a use or a type of building and structure that would preclude the future compliant conversion to an intended use under the existing zoning. I think that's what we would have a concern with. So in this case, we feel that the application meets the 4 tests. Thank you.
Okay, would you like to follow up, or is that fine? Member Bridgman? Okay, I'm familiar with the property. It was at one point part of the Baldwin's Resort, and then it was sold off and severed. So, okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Moved by Member Brown, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A0123 Turgid to construct an accessory sun deck and a detached screen room is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit an accessory use sun deck and detached screen room prior to the establishment of a main use, and 2, to permit an accessory sun deck and detached screen room on an undersized lot. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
And the next one is A 10922, and that is Ms. Walker again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-109/22 in the name of Pesler and Destany. The subject lands are known municipally as 1086 Cedar Rail Drive. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on pages 295 to 297 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows. The applicants propose to remove an existing as-built boat port, to demolish an existing dock, and to construct a new dock and install a new boat port and boat lift. Relief is requested from the minimum side yard setback requirement of 30 feet from a single-story boat port. The proposed boat port is to be 8 feet from the northerly side lot line projection. The requested variance is 22 feet. Relief is also requested from the maximum permitted cumulative dock width. In this case, the maximum permitted dock width is 25.5 feet. The proposed dock will be 27 feet in width. The requested variance is 1.5 feet. Relief is requested from the maximum permitted cumulative single-story boat port width. In this case, the maximum permitted cumulative width is 16 feet. The proposed boat port is to be 27 feet in width. The requested variance is 11 feet. Relief is requested from the maximum permitted cumulative dock and boat port width. In this case, the maximum permitted width is 25.5 feet. The proposed cumulative dock and boat port width is 33.5 feet. The variance requested is 8 feet. Relief is also requested from the maximum permitted coverage on a lot within 200 feet of the high water mark. In this case, 10% coverage is permitted and 10.9% coverage is proposed. The requested variance is 0.9%. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 submissions have been received to date. Comments have been received from Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician, Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, and Douglas Holland, the Township's Fire Prevention Officer. A letter of support was received from Todd Schultz, a budding property owner to the north. A letter of support was received from Scott McBurney, a budding property owner to the north. And a letter of support was received from Larry Pattinson, area property owner. These comments and submissions have all been circulated to committee prior to today's meeting and can be read in full at the request of committee. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved subject to the following condition: that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1 and 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title along with securities for plantings to revegetate the shoreline buffer. I have no further comments at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And is the applicant's agent here? Nope. So there's nobody in support and nobody in opposition. Are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Stokes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for Ms. Walker as to why a review of the fish habitat wasn't a consideration with respect to this development or proposal.
Just 1 second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and thank you for your question, Member Stokes. It's a good question. Staff have available digital mapping that was undertaken by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry that has documented areas along the shoreline on many of our lakes with respect to the quality of the shoreline in water areas as fish habitat. And in this particular instance, the shoreline area has been identified as type 2 fish habitat versus more sensitive type 1 significant fish habitat. So, significant type 1 fish habitat is rather limiting to critical life stages of fish. For example, it could be sensitive spawning areas, whereas type 2 fish habitat is generally abundant across the watershed and isn't limiting. So in this particular instance, as I had said, the shoreline structures are located in that type 2 general fish habitat. And also under the Federal Fisheries Act, an owner is obligated to ensure that they're adhering to federal requirements with respect to fish habitat. So I think given those considerations, staff didn't feel a need to require a fish habitat assessment or a scoped environmental impact study related to fisheries concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I just wanted to clarify. The entrance is at the side, so they're actually crossing the lot line to enter that, and the neighbor hasn't objected, so that's fine. And is the boat lift included? Is that in the boat port or outside? And has that been included? Because we do take boat lifts as well now.
Thank you for your question, Chair Edwards. Yeah, so the entire width of the boat port or boat lift has been included in the boat width and cumulative dock or cumulative shoreline structure width calculations, if you want to call them that. Interesting enough, because of some design details that we realized through a review of the applicant's photos and of a more detailed plan view drawing of the boat port itself, the actual width measurement would be somewhat reduced as compared to what is being circulated in the public notice and included in your resolution, just because of the width of the overhangs as they relate to the distance from the exterior posts of the boat port. Again, I'm just noting this for committee's concern from a very technical standpoint. The width is somewhat less, but you know, I don't think we need to amend the resolution at this point. So a long story short, Chair Edwards, the entire boat width has been included, or the entire boat lift or boat port has been included in the width measurement. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought it was, but I just wanted to get it clarified. And Member Bridgman.
Just as maybe a little bit more information, I am familiar with this part of the lake, and there's great shoals in front of these properties that are along this part of the lake. So I think the only option is to bring the boat in sideways, and so the lift has to stick out.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? And moved by Member Bridgman, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 10922 Pesler or Stansky to permit the new dock and to install a single-story boat port is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a northerly side yard setback of 8 feet for a single-story boat port. 2, to permit a maximum cumulative width of 27 feet. 3, to permit a maximum cumulative single-story boat width of 27 feet. 4, to permit a cumulative dock and single-story boat port 33.5 feet. And 5, to permit a maximum lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark to be 2,182 square feet or 10.9%. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. 1, that a satisfactory minor variance agreement under section 45, 9.1, 9.2 of the Planning Act be entered into and registered on title along with securities for plantings to revegetate the shoreline buffer. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the next one is A0223, and that is Ms. Phelan.
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-0223 in the name of Elma Gackley. The subject lands do not currently have a municipal address. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 311 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of this application is to construct a two-story boathouse. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance of this meeting. No neighboring property owners or members of the public contacted the township in relation to the application. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, stating no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the requested minor variance application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I see the agent is in. Okay, would you like to speak, sir?
Good morning, Chair Edwards and committee. I'm Robert McCackey, McCackey Architecture, 208 18 Hook Avenue, Toronto, M6P 1T4. On behalf of our clients, we're requesting one variance on the second floor of our boathouse, a portion of that to extend 5 feet beyond the permitted setback. Currently, there's a maximum length of 35 feet measured from the high water mark out towards the lake. And as noted in the staff report, our property shoreline length is 398 feet, which falls just short by 2 feet of the 400 shoreline, where if we had that, we'd be permitted to have a 50-foot setback. And we provided 3D drawings and 2D drawings in our application. We're happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A-0223 Elma Gackley to construct a two-story boathouse is hereby approved with the following conditions being granted. 1, to permit a maximum second story length of 40 feet for the two-story boathouse. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, and now under new business. I had been talking to member Bridgman and that, and I don't know if you wanted to say anything on this at the start and that, but and I will follow up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. It's just a comment from looking at the comments that were sent out to us a little bit later. I tried to read through all of those. It's not easy. Some of them are overwritten, other parts, et cetera, et cetera. It takes a fair amount of time. So I have a suggestion. And I do see that the public and agency comments are already listed in the report at time of publishing, as we talked about before. And I'm wondering if we could just leave that in the public and agency comment section as the summary, and we don't need to have sent to us anything except what's absolutely new that comes in at that last minute, which would probably be a neighbor's report. Otherwise, we've got a concise area right in our document that shows all of that. I say that because otherwise I have to sort through all of these comments that come out on the Sunday to try to figure out what's new and what isn't. And I'm also thinking of Chair Edwards here, who is our district counselor and has a ton of reading to do for the meetings this week, and just wondering if we could streamline that a little bit more. I don't know, Chair Edwards, if you have any more comments on that.
Well, It was very good. As you know, when you got them sent out, there was 137 extra pages sent out. And you already had 325 to go through. 2 of those were actual and that reports on the fish habitat and everything else like that, which all you have to have is from the staff saying they confirm it and highlight it. That's and that. And the other with some of them with 3 or 4 pages, some without being signed, other overwritten over the other, very unprofessional. And there was 75 pages, and I think they could be brought down. I had come up with something that maybe committee could look at. Could we put that on the screen, please, Kitty?
Yeah. Well, it was the form that we had sent earlier for screen sharing.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, that is it. As you can see, it could be almost put on one page or 2 pages, and that they just check a box, no objection. Any comments on that? If there's no comments, they could and that delete that. But normally we get it from the Public Works, Building Department, Septic Inspection, and Fire Prevention. If there wasn't, that could be dropped off. Anything coming in from the district. We have had something from Bell. We have had something over the thing from Tuborg. You could get that down to 1 to 2 pages. And that, so if there was 14, that'd be 28 pages rather than the 75 pages coming in. And and I just would like the thoughts of the committee on this, because it is read out that there's no comments or they have to bring it, because this is quasi judicial, which means that everything should be and that presented at the meeting anyway. So if you hear the staff reports, they just say Public Works, no comment, or from the fire department, and that on the length of time to get to it. It's just trying to streamline it so there's not so much. And I like to go back to the committee and see what you think. Yes, Member Green.
Yeah, I agree with that. The only thing I would like to keep seeing is environmental impact studies and fisheries reports and that kind of thing in full, because I actually read them and went to the trouble of investigating the type of camera that was put in the hole in one of our applications today. So I do want to see that, because that happens to be near and dear to my heart. And I want to see that these consultants are actually doing the job and that the reports are reasonable. And, I learn a lot from them as well. So I don't want to just have a synopsis by one of the planners. I actually would like that attached, because some of us want to read that.
Okay, any other thoughts? Yes, Member Quinn.
Yeah, I think it would be great to have it streamlined. I think that if there's a letter of oppositions or something negative, I would like to see the writings of it. And in the last minute neighbor stuff comes in, the planning people are going to talk to it and maybe read those letters. So I'm for this if the staff can do it.
Okay, just 1 second, Mr. Sharp. What happened there?
Thank you, Chair Edwards and committee, and thank you for adding this item as new business. I appreciate the discussion. I guess I wanted to give a bit of the history as to what we used to do and how we got to how we're doing things now. It wasn't that long ago that the planner in their introduction of an application would literally read each submission verbatim during the hearing itself, which was taking quite a lot of time. So we switched to this new consideration, a new process of providing whatever submissions have been received up to, a certain date prior to the meeting, well in advance, so that committee members could have those submissions in hand and read them as they wish, either through a quick scan, or if they felt needed to read them very carefully line by line. I would also note that in our reports, in the appendices in our reports, in the first table, any comments that we receive at the time of writing are always indicated. And I'd also note that, any comments that are received and circulated to committee are noted in our introductions, and any comments that are submitted thereafter are reviewed and summarized in more detail for committee's benefit during the introductions themselves. I'm a little concerned about the added staff time that this may take to fill out yet another chart and provide it to committee. So that would be I think my only concern. And I saw that that Mr. Pink had his camera on and may wish to speak further to this as well. Thank you.
Good morning, committee. I don't know, Chair, if you're waiting for me to speak, but I think you're muted. But good morning. I really just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Sharp noted, just some of the background. We did find it not very efficient and really led to lengthy meetings where planners would be reading, verbatim lengthy submissions to committee at every hearing. And also what we found was many authors of those submissions or neighboring property owners sort of assumed that they would be sent to committee in full, where we summarized lengthier submissions or received many submissions. And really, I think under the legislation, and again, the assumption of most neighbors is that committee members and councillors are receiving their letters and do consider them. So I also wanted to add that we took the same approach at council planning committee meetings where applications for zoning amendment, and haven't heard any concerns or complaints from councillors as to the new process. But with that said, we can certainly look at ways to streamline. I'm certainly concerned if the submissions that are sent out are not, I think a few members noted, perhaps there's some technological consistency or issues with them, and the professionalism of them. So we can certainly look at that. We can look at the agency submissions if they are noted in the reports already. There's no need perhaps to duplicate that in a lengthy submission package. Perhaps we can just send out those comments from neighboring property owners. So staff's happy to look at ways to lighten the burden of the size of these packages for committee. But I think it is important that they be sent and considered, and we're doing that in an effort to streamline the efficiency of the meetings themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Pink. And I see Member Bridgman and then Member Quinn would like to comment.
Well, thank you, Chair Edwards, and to David's comment, and Bryce too. I was part of that restreaming, chair of the planning committee. So I certainly understand. We do not want to add to staff. I'm very happy with the public and agency comments in the report already. But in planning, I don't believe we received those as our follow-up package. We strictly got to Member Quinn's point, comments from the public who wanted their voices heard. So I have no issue with just that coming out. I didn't understand why we had the planning department, which was repeating, the fire department, which was repeating the whatever in the report that was sent out this last time. I don't think we need any of that. We just need the public and agency comments. If they didn't make it in time, add that in. Otherwise, it's just the added public comments that we can actually hear. And I again, I know we talked about this in planning. I have no understanding why we continue to ask Bell, because they don't really have any input here. So it's just a side comment from that standpoint.
Thank you. Member Quinn.
Yeah, I'd like to thank staff. The reports and the information we get compared to 4 and 5 years ago is so much more complete. And I feel that I add more value by having more guidance and more there. And I think that part of the problem is a lot of public can't respond because of the time in which they get it in the mail. By the time they do some investigation, it doesn't come in till through the weekend, and we're not going to hear about it until Monday when the planner presents. But if those other comments, and I think because you're going to continue to do that, if rather than a separate email comes out, the ones that are there, 2 or 3 days later, and you're cross-referencing it in our agenda package, could there not be, one more where it says key plan report? Could it not say comments there? So it's at least tied to the file and we're not cross-referencing.
I think that's a very good idea, and that I'll sit down and maybe we can go over it with Mr. Sharp and Mr. Pink, because like I say, all our comments could come in on one page, and that they could send it out almost the same as a doodle poll and just check it off and then send it back in. We don't need 3 or 4 pages that are all the same coming in, and that because it does put an awful lot of extra time on your reading. And as far as the other and that on my second page there was letters of support. They could put the number of in support or the numbers in objection, and then send those letters out. Then you could look at them. I'm not trying to stop progress, but if everybody read them there the other day and you've seen that the overwriting on the stuff, it's very unprofessional, and it's not only here, it's sometimes in the council right at the bottom, and that they should streamline it, because they could just set borders up and get the comments in there. Okay, so we'll look at that. Anything else? Anything anybody like to say? Moved by member Quinn, second by member Brown. Be it resolved that committee adjustment adjourned at 11:43. All those in favor? That's carried.
Thanks to everyone.
Have a good day.